but I really didn't realize how nasty people could be until we all got the internet. I don't know if that's...
Oh, yeah.
Do you think people are getting nastier?
No, I think it's given people license to be openly nasty because there's a bravery. Well, I don't know if it's bravery, but there's a lack of accountability. You can lob whatever bullshit you want at people from the safety of your safe space. So, behind a screen. So, I mean, I think people have always had this capacity. We've just opened up a doorway where we made it infinitely easier for people to be shitty with impunity.
Ladies and gentlemen, back today with artist, somebody who's making wonderful, hilarious, lampooning comics of horrible politicians, and a humorist, I would call you, Jesse Duquette. How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm all right. Are you kidding? I'm drinking way too much scotch at this point in my life. Yeah.
Well,
but
cheers.
Cheers to that. What are you drinking there?
Just a IPA, just a beer.
Oh, that sounds so good. So good. I overdo it on the weekends. I did too much Bushmills, and I got to take it easy. But yeah, so tell me a story. Where'd you come from? Where do you hail from?
I'm from the northeast part of the state. So I was born in Connecticut, but left my folks' house when I was about 18 to go to college in Boston, which I only went briefly, barely made it a year, but basically lived in Boston for the next 20 some odd years. And now I live in the western part of the states, much more rural, much quieter, much nicer.
Rural.
But yeah, always been in like the New England, that neck of the woods.
What were you studying?
Oh, I didn't go long enough to study anything. The first year of art school, at least the state art school I went to, was like a foundation course. So there was American thought and government, art history, some interesting courses, but I rapidly discovered that setting wasn't really for me. I was going to go for illustration, but that school, and I get the sense a lot of schools are like this. They really steer you towards graphic design. They want to, get people to get into these like advertising kind of jobs to build up maybe their alumni or something. But so it's just not my thing. And I quickly sniffed out that agenda on their part. And so I bailed.
So you got this way about you, like you're probably like me. You don't care for authority so much, or even like Madison Avenue kind of consumerism and all this kind of crap. Am I right?
Yeah, it's a big kind of get pulled kicking and screaming to partake in it. Even like doing the merch thing took me a long time to get on board. I got enough people hectored me to like make shirts. So I was like, fine, shut the fuck up.
Right.
Yeah, I would say that's true.
There's always a voice in my head that says, "You fucking poser. What are you trying to sell? You're trying to brand yourself and stuff." And eventually I just silenced him and was like, okay, I'm going full steam into this podcast thing. But yeah, I was a failed artist. I did okay. I got some cartoons around here somewhere that I did, but I just, at some point I got lonely doing it on the internet. I was like,
man, that's great. What are you talking about failed?
I mean, I do it, but being this void of attention that I am, it's like it wasn't filling that void. And so I thought I'd rather talk to other people, and connect that way. It was the same way playing music. It's like eventually I felt like I was just up on stage masturbating and for my own enjoyment,
Yeah.
Look at me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. It's like a pageant.
Right. And needless to say, I don't know if you've experienced this, but other creative people, there's some of them get up on their high horse about what they do quite easily. And that turned me off.
Yeah. It's a bummer when that happens. And you wonder if it was like the person was always like that, or if attention kind of turned them into that. But yeah, that's happened a few times, meeting people and having a certain sense of, oh, they must be like have a a lot of humility, and then being disappointed.
Yeah. I mean, you seem like a guy that's experienced some ego death. Have you gotten over your own? You seem pretty humble. You're easy to talk to. What's the secret there?
Ego death. It's all the DMT,
right? For me, yeah, totally.
I mean, I have like a heavy dose of suspicion about the whole thing. I think part of it maybe is also my age, where, being the age I am and the generation I am, I'm like the last generation that wasn't raised on the internet really. And so social media itself is like a bit of a suspect environment, the whole transactional notion of chasing likes and followers. And I think especially with my account, on the precipice of being taken down any minute, I'm always presently aware that it could vanish like immediately at any point, irrespective of anything I'm doing. So I think because of that, I'm always aware of like just the tenuous nature of it. It's a house of cards. Like they could determine to pull it, and then it's over. It's done. That's it. So it's hard to have an ego when you have an inherent mistrust of the environment that you're kind of operating in, and I think have an allergy to that kind of deal,
right?
Which I do.
And there's no platform that you aren't going to be beholden to their terms of service, right? And
sure.
And if you just come up with a website, how the fuck are you going to promote it, right? You have to. I found that this is the latest iteration of expression, and we have to either take it or leave it.
Yeah, which is crazy. I mean, it's like the new William Randolph Hearst, where they like own the whole messaging of it all. It's true. It's a self-fulfilled prophecy that we're in here.
We don't like what you said, and so we're just not going to run that story.
Exactly.
I mean, you're pretty keen on history too. How did you learn about stuff like Hearst and stuff like this? Because
probably because when I was very young, I was always drawn to my sort of favorite go-tos to entertain myself as a kid were things like, my dad had a lot of underground comics, so a lot of R-Crom, a lot of Zap comics. So I really became obsessed with that, maybe too young. National Lampoon magazine, like the original magazine, same thing. Again, right. Entirely too young to be into it, but I was. And then even the stuff that was a little bit more age appropriate, like my first favorite comic strip would be Bloom County, which was, when I was reading, I was probably like 8, and it was all political reference points. So like I could name you people who are like in Reagan's cabinet, like, as an 8-year-old dropping like
right.
Patrick and James Baker. Like, what am I doing?
Spiro Agnew.
Really big hit in elementary school.
Right.
But so I think because to me some of these people were, I liked feeling as a young kid like I was in on the adult thing. Like, oh yeah, I can hang with the adults. I know these people. I know what's up. And so I think I was attracted to that sort of level of political knowledge, I guess. And at the time, though, it was more like they were kind of characters, and I thought it was kind of interesting that there was real life good and bad people.
Yeah. But you take it. So were you were, they'd probably call you an old soul growing up, where you really absorbed the culture of like.
Maybe I was a big Marx Brothers fan, so probably.
Oh wow, yeah. I guess so. Duck Soup or what?
Yeah, Duck Soup for sure. The whole thing.
I'm guilty too. I just grew up on whatever my mom was into, which was like 60s and 70s, rock and roll music. But everything from my generation just went right over my head, except for The Simpsons, of course.
Yeah, I see it behind you right there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, guilty, totally guilty. Like that helped. The Simpsons helped me through tough times. Sometimes you turn it on just to get that nostalgic feeling.
That was the other thing when I was a young kid. It was Akbar and Jeff and Life is Hell. His first comic strips he did. Like there was a back when there used to be, every city had its free paper, whether it was the Village Voice or whatever. In Connecticut, when I was growing up, it was the Hartford Advocate. And like all those independent weeklies, they had, all the kind of not underground, but like comic strips that wouldn't be in like the regular papers. And Matt Groening's were in there, Akbar Jeff. I just thought it was the cool Life is Hell. I mean, School is Hell. That book to me, it was like, oh yeah,
this is the one with the two bunny people, right?
Yeah, Bongo. Yeah.
No, I grew up in the same thing. Like you and I have scary amount of stuff in common. When I was a kid, I would pull out the equivalent, which was the Westward. It was the Village Voice subsidiary in Denver, and I would read the Westward religiously. And yeah, I would see stuff like Bizarro, right?
Oh yeah, Don Piraro, right?
Dude, he's been on the show. He was
really.
Yeah, you're in good company, man.
There's not many comic strips that I like really liked a lot. That was definitely one of them. I love that guy's artwork. And in fact, I guess he's still doing it today. I mean, I don't look at newspapers too much, but he's so good.
I'll give you the update. He's in Mexico, living his best life. He just did this comic called Peyote Cowboy, and it's like an actual graphic novel. And he's super proud of it. And we just talked forever about psychedelic experiences, but he's had all kinds of like ailments as far as like restless leg syndrome, and he took SSRIs for a long time, and but he's been through the gamut, and he's still got like a great sense of humor, man. Cool guy for sure.
I still have. I must have gotten it when I was like, I don't know, 10. One of his like collections, and it's so dog-eared. I showed it to my son, who is beginning to kind of get into like comic strip stuff. But God, I've carried that book with me. It's one of the things I've always, like, wherever I've moved, it's one of the books I've always had with me. Love that book.
Yeah. He's our generation, like early, like when we were probably, I don't know, you're probably about my age, a little older maybe. I don't know. It's hard to tell.
40, what am I, 46? I got to ask. 46.
I know at this point I have to ask my wife, and I'm like, how old am I? Yeah. No, I'm 38, so yeah, I still got some.
All right, you're spry.
But I'm really unhealthy. Come on. No, but stuff like The Far Side too, which was this great. Yeah. Any of these non sequitur kind of cartoons that would just have one frame and then, you know.
Yeah.
But in third grade, I was all about fucking Garfield.
Totally.
and of course Calvin and Hobbes. These two, as a kid, these really blew my mind. Yeah.
Oh yeah, totally. I was all in on Garfield. That's a funny one you bring up, because I had like, you know, I collected like all of them. I mean, whatever the Garfield,
the narrow ones, right? Yeah.
I was obsessed. And it's funny because it was so different from the other comic strips I was also obsessed with, and that it was so formulaic. It was really just, you know, not much separating it from like the High and Lois's, you know, the Blondies, but there's something, I think I just liked that the main character was such a piece of shit. Like Garfield was just so mean, but like you're supposed to love him. And like just also the specific weirdness, like Mondays and lasagna, like this weird, they just like created such an absurd bunch of picadillos for this like weirdo cat. And I love when comic strips do the thing where they'll like a character vanishes. Like John Arbuckle had the roommate Lyman, who like was gone, was there for the first bunch of years. Then all of a sudden, no roommate anymore. What happened? What happened to Lyman?
They canceled him. Yeah, I don't know.
Seriously, had some old tweets that resurfaced or something. Yeah. I don't know. But
he died in a plane accident. Nobody talked about it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's a trip. I don't know. But yeah, no, I miss those Garfield books. Those are hilarious. There was this one bit in one of these books I'll never forget. And it's been reused in like media. I've seen it where he falls asleep and he has a dream that he's eating these big pancakes and he wakes up and his pillow's gone, right?
Yeah. Right.
And as a third grader, man, I was just chuckling my head off. Yeah. So no, we grew up on the same kind of flavor of Americana, I think. You know?
Yeah.
And the Art Crumb thing came later. Like I saw the documentary later, and then I just fell in love with that dude. But I never had the comics. Like I never had Zap or there's another one called The Fabulous Freak Brothers, but I think that wasn't Crumb. Was that Crumb?
No, I forget the guy's name. Yeah. And someone just was it Seth Rogen? Someone just made it into like a movie or a TV series like a couple years ago or something. I didn't see it, but yeah, Fabulous Freak Brothers. Yeah, for sure. I was Total classic. I loved all this stuff, and I'm sure a lot of the humor went over my head. But I loved the style of artwork. To me, was just the coolest. And when I did kind of get the jokes, I was like, I felt like the shit. I was like, I like that.
Right.
That's awesome.
You're like, what, Dad? What's a lid?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, my mom was all into those comics, but they're all in the same vein as the Mad magazine style of illustration, right?
Very much so, especially that Fabulous Freak Brothers. It's very similar, like Don Martin. A lot of those like class. Mad is another one. God, I loved Mad. I liked some of the artists. I thought I got pretty. The jokes fell flat for me. Like, I'm not a big fan of. Mort Drucker was a great cartoonist, super great, one of the best caricature artists of all time. But like the TV show or movie parodies to me got like a little. I just was never into that. I liked more Sergio Aragones, like the little drawings he would do in the margins. It was hyper detailed. Pretty simple, but also like very detailed because it was so tiny. And it'd be hard to tell what was happening sometimes with these like very miniature panorama of action going on in all the pages. And Don Martin, there was such a great roster of artists in Mad. Unbelievable.
How long back does that go, that whole legacy?
50s.
Really?
Well, Mad Magazine was William Gaines started, it was like 55, I want to say, is when it started. Something like that. It was a progenitor for sure.
Yeah. I look forward to anything that was like, I think oil painted, and whether it's comic books or whatever, I'd skip past all the comic-y stuff and I'd go to like the advertisements for the specials and stuff, and the fold in, like the fold in the front was like the fruit of the magazine. Just go in the store and fold it in and try not to get caught,
Yeah. That dude, the fold-in guy, Al Jaffe, just died like a month ago.
Oh, right.
He was like 105. He's still drawing, I think.
Yeah. Well, if I can make it that long in this miserable existence, we'll see. Somebody said she made it to 108, but why?
I know. Unfortunate.
They interviewed some old lady. She was like 105 at her birthday party, and the news came down and was like, "Oh, it's your birthday today. Are you excited about your party?" She says, "Not one bit." It's like, oh, old lady, I feel you. Yeah. Yeah.
The honesty.
Yeah. But yeah, art, comics, what else inspired you as far as, because you're one of my favorite cartoonists today. I don't know. I know Bizarro's still going. There's a few people lingering around, internet comics and stuff, but I found you. What else drives you?
Art creatively,
Percocet and whiskey.
I'll be honest. Like I'm not a big fan of political or editorial cartoons. It's maybe my least favorite kind of artwork. Only because, and I mean primarily like, the syndicated political cartoons, because it's to me, it's one of the laziest forms of political commentary. I only say that, again, I'm not coming from a place of a ton of knowledge. I'm not like rifling through a bunch of examples of it, but just over the years when I was a kid looking at the newspaper stuff, it runs the gamut of like Trump is bad, and that's sort of like the depths that they'll go, but which is okay. I think for me personally, the tone isn't appropriate for the time. Like it doesn't meet the sort of standard or obligation of where we're at. Like to just approach some of these individuals that are out there now in the political mainstream the way we may have previously, like a little ribald jest, a little like poking fun. Like, no, like those days are kind of over for where we're at right now. And so I think that because of the nature of syndicated editorial cartoons, political cartoons, by definition, they have to play it a little safe. They have to kind of be down the middle of the road, which is fine. That serves the purpose of that entity. But because of that, it's just always, it serves like no purpose, or for me, I have like no interest in it. So I don't get much of any inspiration from art. I get most of my inspiration from like listening to music, I would say,
Okay.
which is a weird thing, but like if I'm listening to something, it'll do something, it'll sort of conjure whatever, but it's more as like an additive to whatever thing I'm reading about or thinking about. But, in terms of like a creative inspiration or jolt, I would say it's very much more like driven by music than art.
Sure, but
I haven't given up on art. I mean, I'm sure there's other great things. I mean, I'm not knowledgeable enough.
well, the output is some kind of art you got going there, and it is rooted in some stuff that's well, we used to talk about themes about ethics and themes about politics and stuff. So it does seep in. So are you as angry as I am with the state of what you see on the news, or?
Of course, how could you not be? I mean, that's anger is one of the only appropriate responses, and I mean, if not the only one. Like being apathetic is pointless. I get it. I fully understand, and in some cases can empathize with people who are, kind of give up or whatever. But I think, I wouldn't do it. But yeah, anger is the only true appropriate, I guess, response.
Well, you see, you're watching people act in a completely senseless way. At what point in your life journey did you start to tune into that and say, these people running things, or these people over here, or or these people aren't acting empathetically? What the fuck?
Well, it started again from a young age and being exposed to political commentary, but with a tone that was more, adult or whatever, or edgy, because of whether it was in National Lampoons or whatever it was. And then again, some of the other things that were even less edgy, I just had gotten that sense of, there's like actual bad actors out there. There's people out there who are, you're used as a little kid, you're used to hearing about villains, but the more, I was learning about even generically the world at the time, like Ronald Reagan, the more I as a little kid, because my parents were intense Reagan haters, so I was around a lot of that. And so as soon as I was clued into that, there's people out there who, who actually, are inflicting some evil shit on people in the world. As soon as I had that knowledge and I got a little older, it happened pretty rapidly. When I was in high school, and I don't remember where I came across this, but I learned about about Mumia Abu-Jamal, and around whatever year it was, like 94 or 5, he had an appeal come up. And I remember I went to a rally in Burlington, Vermont, and it was Bernie Sanders when he was, I think it was even like a Senate re-election campaign for him then. And he was doing like a prison reform rally. It was for prison reform. It was also, I think, partially a re-election thing for him. And within the prison reform, they were talking about Mumia Abu-Jamal. And so, when I went to this thing, and I expected it was Burlington, Vermont, very, very progressive, always largely has been. And
I love that town. I love that town.
I love Burlington, Vermont. One of my favorite places.
You've been to the Radio Bean. That's my...
Yes. Great place. Yes. And I remember going, so I was like, this is it's, Burlington, Vermont, it's Bernie's rally. This is going to be a love fest. It's great. And I remember, the rally was not a gigantic thing. There was, a couple thousand people maybe, but, it sort of did this several block circle walk. But I remember doing this walk, and there was people lined up on the road, and there was families, kids and their parents, throwing firecrackers at us or coin, just kind of giving a shit. I remember thinking man, these shitheads are everywhere, and they're protesting prison reform. We're not, which is in the scheme of things, when people actually learn what that means, it's hard to, if people are educated about generally what prison reform is, you'd be hard pressed to find people who are like, nope, not into it. You know, I mean, if they're honestly given what it truly means, and not as some sort of like weirdo buzz phrase that's been co-opted by somebody with an agenda. So I think, you know, I'm not saying that was a situation that radicalized me, but it was eye opening. I was like, oh, you know, this wasn't in Alabama, this was in Burlington, Vermont, and I think because of that, I've always carried with me this awareness that these shitheads are everywhere, and not that I needed. I'm reminded of that all the time. You know, these people are
right. It didn't sink in for me 100% until I really got on the internet. I think for years I hitchhiked across the country and met people, stayed with all different demographics of people, but I really didn't realize how nasty people could be until we all got the internet. I don't know if that's.
Oh yeah.
Do you think people are getting nastier?
No, I think it's given people license to be openly nasty because there's a bravery. Well, I don't know if it's bravery, but there's a lack of accountability. You can lob whatever bullshit you want at people from the safety of your safe space. So, you know, behind a screen. So, I mean, I think people have always had this capacity. We've just opened up a doorway where we made it infinitely easier for people to be, you know, be shitty with impunity. Yeah. I mean, you know, that's why I don't think, like, in the States, I don't think that things are, I don't know that there's a change. I don't know that it's gotten worse. I think it's become more exposed, and some of these people are certainly more comfortable with being out in the open with what they're doing and what their intentions are.
Yeah. I think there's this element too of like of the two dogs between a fence, and then if you put the fence there, then they're going to go crazy. But if you take away the fence, then everybody's okay.
Yeah.
But at the same time, yeah, it's like the impunity, right? And the other thing is they have their support groups. So you could be a racist before the internet and not have, and now all of a sudden they're like, well, he's racist. Now it's a competition to see who could be the worst piece of shit. I see a lot of that. But at the same time, I'm finding some of my community that, you know, my fellow freaks. Hi there. Which is nice. So
yeah, it works both ways. You're totally right. I mean, you know, it's a lot of people, you know, talk about how the segmentation of culture is reinforced, and it's a negative. You know, people are able to sort of find and then cloister themselves in their weird subgroups, which certainly can be absolutely bad. But exactly, to your point, it can work in the other direction too. People who might otherwise be totally alone, and, you know, can find people. It doesn't have to be that they're into white supremacy. They could be, you know, it can work in sort of any direction. Hopefully,
we could just drink beers. We don't have to hate, you know, ethnic groups.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, but you've run the gamut of the people on the internet, and I've seen you go at it with folks in the comment section. And this is like almost my fucking full-time job too. So what's it like? What's some of the craziest shit that you've heard in these?
One of my favorite ones was I don't remember what the drawing was, but the drawing in some way referenced Trump as being a fascist. And first of all, I just want to say, because that's a term that gets thrown around a lot, you know, right. And I think it can lose some of its potency. I mean it like fully literally, right? Like, I mean, in true definition of the word, I mean, this guy, you know, so again, like, to me, it gets a little casual, casually thrown around. Not with him. But so anyways, had some drawing where it referenced him being a fascist or something. And this guy, kid, messaged me and like just started going at me like, how dare you? Like, you know, you don't even know what fascism is. He's not a fascist. How could you? He's an American. He's not a fascist. Sends the message, and then like a 4-second beat, and the next message is, what's so wrong with fascism anyway? So it was such a great, it was one of my all-time favorites. You know, it's like, just, you know, which ultimately the subtext of that first comment was exactly that. Like, kid had no problem with fascism. So he didn't like that I was using it as a pejorative. He's like, what are you talking about? That's my guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, by and large, the people who come at me are uniformly white men or boys, you know, and that's generally the ballpark of like sort of the the arsenal of words that come out. It was just usually just like almost always just weird insults that are totally ridiculous and unintentionally hilarious.
I get it too, and I like to hashtag Trump all the time just to see what's going to happen about any subject. I know like senior citizens will come out of the woodwork to come over and tell me that I'm an un-American piece of shit. And what was hilarious is like, I think I put up something about some statistics about crime or whatever, and some real stuff, real shit. And the senior comes over and tells me that it's all fake. Everything I'm saying is fake. And then I go over to his profile, and he's like a big Trump supporter. In the comments, in his bio, it says, "Don't ask me for any more money because I already got scammed with those damn Amazon gift cards." And it's like in the bio, and I felt so bad for the guy that I like just was. I didn't want to troll him too hard. I said, "Okay, whatever you say, sir. Trump is your guy. Well, just enjoy your life." But damn, dude, that was harsh because they really do go after these seniors to this make America great again. And it all really appeals to these old timers that can fantasize about a time when it was better.
And fear, like really susceptible to fear. But that's also, I think, been a very effective long-term in very targeted and intentional campaign, with Fox. I mean, that's the whole MO, was to weaponize not even misinformation, just like weird dog whistling in order to influence a whole demographic to be so malleable as to just operate on like weird fear instinct.
I mean, you remember growing up with that. When was the first time that you noticed that these people are reactionary scumbags who, it started in 96, I believe, Fox News. And that was when they repealed the fairness doctrine and you could have a partisan news network legally. And it just fired up. And then I think around this time, The Daily Show popped on and lampooned it. Then I knew about it, but I thought it was news.
Probably the same. I would say that's when I was generally aware of because my introduction to Fox was more like the Tracy Ullman Show, Living Color, and The Simpsons. That was Fox as far as I was concerned. And then the news thing was kind of came out like this weird salvo out of nowhere.
Yeah. But and then they always made jokes on The Simpsons about Rupert Murdoch being this tyrant or whatever, and I thought, I was like a young kid. I'm like, okay, all right, not my team.
Yeah, right.
But then, as I got older, I realized that this is a whole machine that they've created. And you heard about this thing where the kid goes up to the wrong house and gets murdered, right?
Yeah.
The daughter says, "Oh yeah, my dad, he was super, riled up by Fox News, indoctrinated by Fox News." How often do you think this happens, man?
I think it happens way more often, definitely way more often than we know about. I think, that happened with that kid, just the whole premise where he said he was scared of like how big this kid was, and they said how like tall the kid was, shorter than the guy. I think. I mean, he was whatever. He was a kid, but that right there encapsulates the whole thing where it's like they have so successfully indoctrinated the demographic to just be scared of black men. Doesn't matter what the deal is. So this kid shows up, rings the doorbell. The guy's instinct is to shoot him. It's wild. I am fully confident it happens a lot. We hear about a tiny fraction of it, since this stuff is only being reported with a little more regularity over the past probably 6-7 years, maybe since Mike Brown, maybe. But that still leaves out, I'm sure, the heavy majority of this shit taking place all the time.
Yeah. I mean, people don't even have to get killed for there to be some kind of discrepancies between people or whatever in public based on this, the deep-seated indoctrination from Fox News, where old people are walking around scared of their own shadows.
Yeah.
I remember growing up in Colorado, and every night on the subsidiary, whatever you call the Fox 31, we had Fox 31. It was always, the most important thing that happened in the universe that day was that a black guy killed somebody, and we're going to tell everybody.
Yeah.
I knew this early on. Also, I knew that Jerry Springer was fake at some point too. I was like, got high, and I was like, this isn't real.
Right.
But yeah. But yeah, I don't know. It's really sad to see. And honestly, when Fox News dies, which it's on its way to dying, what's going to take its place is going to be this Daily Wire shit and even less regulated kind of internet fascist media.
Sure.
And I kind of see that coming. And I think everybody's cheering for Fox to go down, but I'm like,
Yeah, I mean, the only upside is, my hope is that, similar to how, a generation ago, everyone watched the same, couple of news channels. Everyone, we all kind of watch the same couple of news programs. Any one of those, whatever it's the Daily Wire or OAN or, Breitbart, all these things, none of them have the same sort of viewership or poll that Fox does. So I think it's no less scary, because I think what you'll have is a smaller viewership, but a viewership that's way more radicalized. And that can still do way more damage, probably. But the only benefit, I think, is that you don't have as wide a group of people all tuning into the same crazy bullshit.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Even Tucker Carlson, wherever he lands, given the fact, and this is not age shaming, I'm just saying, his viewership had was a little bit older, so many of those people aren't gonna figure out where to go find him where he lands next. You know what I mean? They're just not gonna. They're either not gonna live long enough, or they're not.
He's on the what? The YouTube? What?
Exactly. So whatever he does, he'll definitely have a big draw. He'll definitely make a shit ton of money, I'm sure. But it won't be the same, as many eyeballs on him as that's.
I hope that you're right, because
me too.
But it's the variety. You're right. If you get a diversity where they can't even keep up with each other's talking points or what kind of fascist thing they're going after. So,
right.
But it's what's that creature where you cut the head off and then the more heads spring up?
I don't know. But
it's some kind of old Greek Roman thing. It's a dragon with 3 heads and a hydra. I think you cut the head off. You cut one head off, and then 3 kind of take its place. And it's this.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
okay.
Something like that. Some kind of monster. Yeah. I don't know. But no, we're all watching with great anticipation to see what happens. The difference, though, is you're still there, and I'm watching the whole thing burn from across the street.
That's right. I'm slowly dying from smoke inhalation while the house is burning around me.
Yeah. What's it like? What's the vibe?
It's intense. You can tell that to a certain extent. It's just a gigantic stress test, to see how much unrelenting pressure can the system and controllables take, how much. And they've got a lot of energy and staying power to keep trying. It's pretty remarkable. I don't know. My main worry about all of it is I don't have a lot of confidence in people's attention span. And, that's the reason I did the daily drawing in the first place when I started during the Trump administration, because I knew every day was some wild craziness, and, something would happen on a given day that would just be bonkers. You couldn't believe that the president of the United States was saying or doing whatever madness. But then the next day, something would happen that was just as bad, if not worse. And you'd forget about what happened. But how could you forget about this thing that just happened? Because I'm definitely a proponent of, if you left to its own devices or not learning from it, history definitely repeats itself.
Yeah.
And so the whole point of that daily drawing was if for no one else, just for my own edification. Like I didn't want to ever like forget any of the bullshit. I wanted to remember it. And that's I think a worry I have is I don't know. It's people get fatigue, and I get it. Like it's an endless slog. Even with Trump gone, I mean he's gone, but you have all these other people sucking up the oxygen who are, only reason they're not worse is because they don't have the cultural cachet he does, but they're just as awful and are still finding ways to like pull the levers and get either what they want or inch things closer to what they want. I mean, in all honesty, and I was super naive about it, like I would have lost a bet with Roe getting taken down. Like I would have, I up until it happened, I was like, no way. Like there's just because people, even conservatives, don't want it fully repealed, But then it was like, oh yeah, I forget about the hubris of these people. They do not give a shit. They have their agenda, and they don't even care what the polls are saying. It doesn't matter. It's just
this is the scariest one though. If it's not popular, then what's the big thing? What's the real to stimulate the economy? Forced birth to
it's a well-moneyed campaign. Like this is like when you think about the long game, like this required this required conservative groups identifying judicial candidates that they could get behind, that they could guarantee if they got seated would vote that way. I mean, this is like a 30-year-long campaign, if not more, to make this happen. And they really lucked out with multiple Republican presidents who lost the popular vote, seating conservative justices that otherwise the majority of the population wouldn't be happy about. So it's all money. I mean, it's like, that's always the motivation. It's never an idea.
But I mean, like after the fact, like to ban abortion anyway, what's the benefit for the political machine? Are they going to get paid more by letting people not get abortions? I mean, what's the grift here?
What's the grift? I think people they're already getting paid. They got their people where they want them. They got to deliver. A lot of it is control. Look, I'll also say, I think to a degree, there is some people who are ideologues, like who really are truly advocating and working towards a Christo-fascist state. Absolutely. There's true believers out there for sure, who are the ones who are like the faces of it on the front lines, like going to rallies, scaring the shit out of people. The people who are behind the scenes and bankrolling it, those are the ones who are like the ones motivating the direction, getting the people, the nominees out there, picking them, selecting them. So I think the motivation, I think the subtext is always going to be money. But yeah, I totally think that there's a small but loud and very effective segment of people out there who want a very aggressively Christian,
meaning whatever. What do they call it? Pro-life? Yeah, whatever.
Pro-life. I mean, look, in Texas, they mandated that I forget if it was maybe the whole state, but the 10 Commandments have to be prominently displayed in all schools. They have to like set aside prayer time every day, like that stuff. Like again, you had told me 5 years ago. Even 5 years ago, that this was being like, oh, that's like, now we're talking crazy. There's no way. But totally naive. Like, again, the one thing you can't ever do is underestimate the depths to which people will sink to activate their Christo-fascism. Like, it's truly remarkable.
Well, this is religion. This is one of the most deadliest things known to man.
I mean, yeah, on a scale throughout history, could be the most.
I'm trying to quit, man. I got to slow down with that stuff. Yeah, I'm not really looking forward to that. But I'm always surprised by people that are in prominent positions that go out for the whole monkey in the sky bit. Like, okay, But does that have to dictate the lives of everybody else? Yes, because this is how it works. People, missionaries get paid from the tithings of the congregation to go to some far off land to arrogantly spew their nonsense to people where they have no, that is such an asshole move, dude.
Totally.
And so
we're here to help, but
you should really listen to my spiel. That's their modus operandi, man. That's their default setting, and it's always caused mayhem and chaos and murder and genocide. And I just try to steer clear. So I'm very worried, and I don't know what to expect next. I mean, there's examples in history of Iran to some degree, or Saudi Arabia, where they cut your head off for not doing something. I don't know, but I love the comparison of the Proud Boys to the Taliban, because that's pretty apt.
It is apt, but here's my only problem with that. Because I for a long time would draw the parallel between our, homegrown theocracy, or that theocratic movement, with Taliban. But here's the problem with that idea. We don't need, part of it's part of the what you're saying with that is, or that comparison says, is the Taliban is sort of the lodestone, or that's the moat, right? And so we're not like that, but here's the way we are, where it's we don't need, we are the Taliban. We don't need a theocratic other to compare ourselves to. We are the theocratic other, and we always have been. When you look at, that's our origin story, is being a theocratic monsters. And, so when we compare it to something like the Taliban, which is true, at the same time, what it does is it almost it shifts the onus a little bit. And it says, this isn't who we are, but these guys, they're like those. No, I think one thing that we need to do a better job of is really owning our theocratic impulses, because again, that's been the deal from day one. We're remarkably that group where the people who came over here were the ones who were some persecuted for religious beliefs. Came over here day one. What are we going to do? Who can we persecute? It was amazing. We just took that, brought it over, did the same thing. So we are the Taliban. Yeah. We're not cutting people's hands off in a football stadium.
Not yet.
But exactly right. It's only, you hear the stuff that think about some of the crazy shit that some of the most popular people on the right have said. And these are people, like a Marjorie Taylor Greene. These are not people, unfortunately, who we can afford to fully laugh off, only because they do have, crazy to say, they do have influence. They are able to move the levers of power to a degree. These are people who have advocated for their opponents' deaths. Political opponents, so it's we are the Taliban. That's who we are. And until we are clear-eyed and honest about that facet of ourselves, we'll never fully eradicate it. I don't think we ever will, but we have a better shot if we recognize, rather than having to draw a comparison to what those guys over there are doing. It's no, this is us. We still have, there's still towns out there in the country that have their sunset laws, you're black, you don't want to be down here. That's fucking crazy.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't know.
No, I think you're right. But I think that why the comparison works is it's not for us lefties to look at but to show it to the people who, because they hate, stereotypically these guys, the terrorists, towel heads, blah, 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 horrible, since 9/11, we lived through that, that you're showing them, what you're doing here. I know it seems very familiar to you because it's American flags and Walmarts and stuff, but it's really the same thing in the sense that it's religious ideologies run amok, basically, and given free license.
Right. I think you're right. That's true. I guess with the audience, if the intention is to, show them that true perspective. I hope, I just worry. One thing I do worry about with, what you were saying earlier about the internet and people getting into their like information bubbles or separate camps is,
Yeah.
I worry about the ability to influence or change people's minds anymore. I've seen it just anecdotally happen like once with the drawings, where this dude who early on was just like some random white kid just like coming at me constantly, just like just homophobic slurs or whatever, just relentless. And then after a while, I blocked him. I was like, this is just, it was just giving him any kind of oxygen or attention was fruitless. Fast forward, like, I don't know, a year, 8 months or something, and he had messaged me, started like a new account, and he was like, I just want to let you know, I'm so sorry. I came at you that way. I did some self-reflection, and I actually like kind of read up on some things, and he actually like took the time to like, something else clearly happened to this dude. Like,
Jesus Christ.
He got scared straight somehow.
Stories from Instagram. I tell you a really good one. This happened today, and I got a scammer from most likely Africa, and I found out later what it was. Cards? Yeah, and I'm not falling for that again. It was a white older lady, right? And she sexy pictures, kisses, all this. Messaged me personally too, and then made comments and everything. And I go over and check it out, and I look, and I was like, this has got to be fake. This account started in 2023, highly suspicious, bad English. You send me picture you, I send you picture me. Didn't ask for money at the beginning, but was clearly working on me, And it was probably because I tagged Trump, and they're like, oh, here's a senior citizen, we'll get him. And I say, hey, look, if you're going to scam people, you've got to work on your English. You really got to practice and I wish you the best. Like, if you're going to siphon money from me, what? I'm sure it's rough wherever you are. And I started getting honest, and pretty soon she posts a picture of her real self and goes, I'm actually from Nigeria. I said, you from Lagos? She's like, no, I live in this village outside here. She's like, I'll FaceTime you right now. It's like, no, I know you're probably real. It's fine. She says, I don't want to do this, but I don't know what else to do with my life. And I said, well, let's look on the internet. And I looked up we sat there and looked up the University of Lagos. It turns out it's $2 USD to go to school for locals in Lagos, Nigeria. And for all outsiders, it costs about $1,000 per semester, or with tuition for the year. And yeah, just kind of walked her through a few options, and then like she sent her on her way, man. I don't know.
Get out. Look at that. Now that's what a nice story. That's amazing. You're making some lemonades out of this internet lemons here. That's amazing.
With all it gets tense on Instagram sometimes. Sometimes it's nice to find your peace and like, I gotta say, I'm vegan. I'm one of these vegan idiots. I get so much flack. And I just have learned to calmly just try to relax, but at the same time, I'm dying inside, right? I'm just like boiling over. Yeah.
It's funny. One of the drawings, and this is a couple of years ago, I did a drawing, because most of my drawings obviously are dealing with like politics or whatever. And I did a drawing that had something to do with like overfishing and all that whole thing, right? And I did one of that, but there was something else about like, there was a story going around about like Biden early on in the presidency, I want to say, where like something about like he was gonna cause the price of hamburgers to go up or something like that. And I did a post where I was like, good, like maybe like no one will buy them. And it's one drawing that's gotten me the most like hate mail and messages, like it's remarkable. People fucking hate vegans, and I love it. I think it's so great. It's so funny. It's like it's funny because you don't have to do it. You don't have to do anything, right? Like it's the analogy of like the dumb like bacon culture. It's like people who walk around with that. Like I mentally have the same response. Like, oh, give me a break. But I'm not gonna like sit there and go on the internet and be like, dear sir. Like, you piece of shit.
Right.
It's remarkable. People, it's a massive trigger.
You almost feel like honored sometimes when people really want to hone in on you and write you 4 paragraphs. I'm like, all right, let me sit down. Let me read this. Let me get. This guy put in the time. Fucking stupid idiot, asshole. Yeah, but the vegan thing is contentious to say the least. Oh my goodness! And you know what I get a lot of is like you think you're so high and mighty, don't you? Oh, you always think you're so high and mighty. Say, no, the reason why I do it is because I know I'm not high and mighty.
Right.
I'm doing it because I like these other little creatures that sit and they're like, yeah, well, you think you're high and mighty. The logic gymnastics. So I'm bad at debating politics, but if you want to debate it like veganism, it's like, I got my facts locked. Like the shit is a no-brainer.
Yeah. It's funny the stuff that will provoke a reaction. And I've had to really temper myself to not be the kind of person who is super. I don't want to also like unintentionally turn people away from that path, which I know will be intense that way. But you don't have to. Like just saying, you're vegan, like really inspires really interesting reactions, which is very bizarre. But I mean, and when I say interesting reactions, because it was uniform. It wasn't like just conservatives or Trump supporters who were coming at me. It was all manner of people. You're
1% of the population. You vegans, minority group to say the least. Oh my God. Yeah. But yeah, this is why I framed it like that. Do you see how I slipped that in there? I'm one of these vegan idiots. That's my gateway. I'm not. Hey, I'm.
That was nice Trojan horse.
Right. Yeah. You can play it cool, man. You can play it cool. No dogma. You're gonna drive people away, man. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. No, but you. I've seen you get in arguments with these people on there. I just think, God damn.
Yeah, I don't like to do it. Sometimes it's hard. It's hard. It never provokes anything good. Like there's nothing ever good comes out of it to take the bait and argue. If someone catches me at the right time, because I also try not to like look at the comments a ton anyways. Because I think I don't want to get angry, but also I don't want to be validated by praise for the drawings either, and have that be the motivating factor for what I'm doing. I don't ever want to get in the thing of like, well, that drawing people really liked, I should do another one like that. So I try to like block out the feedback, whether it's positive or negative. Now, however, sometimes like if I happen to catch some comment and it's wild, I have a really hard time holding back sometimes.
So what triggers you harder, the ones that are just straight up insulting, or the ones that are like trying to have like an argument?
Oh, probably that one. Well, the thing is, I don't know how many people want to engage in an argument. I think people bomb throw, but definitely the latter. Like if someone just like throws out some kind of insult to me, it's like a mosquito. It's just like weird white noise. I don't know. It just silliness. It's just has like zero impact or meaning. But when people are like confidently wrong, I find that like attractive to it. I just can't. It's hard to pull back. Someone's like really full throated and like so incorrect or so mistaken about whatever the drawing is saying. It's really hard for me to not take that bait, and I shouldn't, because again, there's 100% of the time it produces 0% benefit. Like it's never a good thing. No. But it's hard. I mean,
do you feel like sometimes you're converting them slowly, or like maybe this last sentence will tell them finally?
No, because I am not a good person in those moments, and I'm not engaging with them in good faith. Like, let me share my facts. Like to me, like I I'm not. It's not my. Maybe
I just,
I was, but I'm like.
I just call them betas. You're just a beta chimp, you little beta cuck chimp boy. If anything, I can, because I think you need to demasculate them, right? And beta. This is the old beta.
My visceral reaction is one of wanting to take the piss out of, take the oxygen out of that unearned confidence. Like that is like number one objective. Like it drives me crazy. This fake bravery that people have on the internet, and when they're loud and proud about how little they know. And I just knowing that I have likely the chance of changing their mind is nil, probably.
Yeah, right.
I'm not going to put in the energy to try to debate. I'm just going to be like, let's shut down this noise. Which is basically
beta. Oh, dude, today I had senior citizens arguing with me about minimum wage in 1970 was $1.50, and we did just fine. I said, adjusted for today's inflation, the minimum wage should be $11.50. Do you know what it is? It's $7.50, and just
yeah, no, you've already adjusted. That's where you went wrong.
Yeah. So, and these are the things where I have to get up and I have to I have to tell this person, hey, they're misled, they're misguided. Let me be the one to show them.
But also that interaction really successfully illustrates, I think, a foundational principle, which is if I suffered or I had it bad, so should everybody else. And that is such a mentality amongst a lot of people where they can't envision a world in which people might be able to enjoy something that's an improvement upon something they experience. And to them, it somehow robs them or wrongs them because of the history that they went through or endured, which is just like such a interestingly selfish approach for people I will almost guarantee are largely Christian or consider themselves Christian, and the fact that they can somehow balance those two thoughts at the same time. I'm Christian, but also I want to make sure people have it rough, or at least as rough as I did. Definitely not better. Like those two things are, and it's an interesting balance people strike.
Yeah. I don't know what that's about, but yeah, definitely not what I would call Christian. Maybe Jesus will make a comeback one day and it won't be this weaponized political thing, but they'll actually be like, no, we're going to treat people good. We're going to feed the poor and shit,
he would be disowned at best or murdered quickly.
Well, they crucified him the first time. How much progress do you think we've made since 2,000 years? Not much. Doesn't feel like much. Yeah. Well, what'd you say, buddy? We did an hour. You come back and do it again.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we could have done this for hours, I think. But I'll stop this and we'll talk afterwards. So I want to thank Jesse Duquette, wonderful human being, vegan idiot like me, and wonderful cartoonist. Check his work out. I'll put the link in the description and tag him all up. And he's just a great voice on the internet. Keeps me sane. So thanks for coming, buddy.
Thank you so much for having me.
Anybody you want to shout out to before we go?
My son Arlo.
Hey Arlo.
That's a lot shout out.
Cool. All right. See you everybody next time. Bye.